I've noticed something about myself that I don't like admitting. Whenever something goes wrong, an argument, a fallout, someone drifting away, my first instinct isn't, maybe I messed up. It's, they just don't get me. And yeah, sometimes that's true, but sometimes that's just the most comfortable explanation. Because if I'm misunderstood, I don't have to change. If I'm misunderstood, I'm still the good guy in the story. I didn't say the wrong thing, they heard it wrong. I didn't act cold, they misread me. I didn't hurt anyone, they're just sensitive. And that narrative feels safe. It protects your identity. Because being misunderstood feels tragic. Being wrong feels shameful. One makes you a victim, the other makes you responsible. And I think a lot of us get stuck in this misunderstood mindset without realizing it. It becomes a personality. You start seeing yourself as the deep one, the complex one, the one nobody really understands. But here's the uncomfortable part. If everyone keeps misunderstanding you, at some point, it's not misunderstanding. It's communication, or behavior, or patterns you don't want to look at. And I hate that thought because it points back at me. I've replayed conversations in my head where I thought, if they really knew my intentions, they wouldn't feel that way. But intentions don't land by themselves. People experience what you do, not what you meant. And hiding behind, that's not what I meant, doesn't undo the impact. The misunderstood story lets you avoid that. It lets you feel morally intact while relationships quietly fall apart. I think some of us cling to this idea because it preserves our self-image. I'm not toxic, I'm just different. I'm not avoidant, I'm just private. I'm not dismissive, I'm just logical. And again, sometimes that's valid. But sometimes it's a shield. A way to say, I shouldn't have to adjust. And the truth is, if you want connection, you do. Not in a fake way, not in a people-pleasing way, but in a responsible way. You don't get to opt out of how you affect people just because you didn't mean harm. That realization stings, because it means being misunderstood isn't always bad luck. Sometimes it's feedback. And feedback hurts more when it challenges the story you've been telling yourself. I'm not fully through this yet. I still catch myself defaulting to, they don't understand me. But I'm starting to ask a harder question. What if they understand me just fine and they don't like what they're seeing? That's not easy to sit with, but it's honest. I think this misunderstood mindset doesn't come from arrogance at first. It usually comes from loneliness, from being the quiet one, the observant one, the kid who didn't quite fit in. When you grow up feeling different, you learn early that explaining yourself doesn't always work. So you stop trying. And instead of saying, maybe I need to communicate better, you say, they just don't get me. At first, that's protective. It helps you survive socially without hating yourself. But over time, it hardens into identity. You stop seeing misunderstanding as something to resolve and start seeing it as proof that you're on a different level. More thoughtful, more complex, less shallow. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because now any criticism can be dismissed. If someone says you're distant, they don't understand your depth. If someone says you're cold, they don't understand your logic. If someone says you hurt them, they misunderstood your intentions. It becomes impossible to reach you. Not because you're evil, but because you're insulated. I've noticed this especially in people who pride themselves on being rational. They confuse clarity in their own head with clarity in the world. Just because something makes sense to you doesn't mean it translates. And instead of adapting, you retreat. You say things like, I'm just not for everyone. People can't handle honesty. I'm too real for most people. Again, sometimes that's true. But sometimes it's ego trying to protect itself from vulnerability. Because real communication requires risk. It means slowing down, clarifying, owning your tone, apologizing without defending. And that's uncomfortable for people who are used to being right. There's also a bitterness that creeps in. You start feeling unseen, unappreciated, overlooked. And instead of asking, how can I connect better? You think, they don't deserve access to me anyway. That's how isolation deepens. Not because people rejected you, but because you withdrew. I've done this. I've watched relationships fade and told myself it was because we were on different wavelengths, when really, I stopped meeting them halfway. And that's a hard thing to admit, because being misunderstood feels noble, but being unapproachable isn't. And the line between the two is thinner than we like to think. I want to be careful here because this isn't about self-hate. It's about honesty. If you keep feeling misunderstood by everyone, friends, family, coworkers, partners, it's worth asking something uncomfortable. What role are you playing in that pattern? Not to blame yourself, not to tear yourself down, but to regain control. Because the moment everything is everyone else's fault, you're stuck. You can't change people. You can change how you show up. And that doesn't mean becoming fake or shrinking yourself. It means checking a few things. Do you actually say what you mean, or do you expect people to read between the lines? Do you explain your intentions after someone is hurt or before? Do you listen to understand or listen to defend? And when someone gives you feedback, even clumsy feedback, do you instantly dismiss it because it threatens your self-image? I'm asking these questions because I've had to ask them myself, and some of the answers weren't flattering. I realized that being misunderstood was sometimes just a way to avoid discomfort. Discomfort of apologizing, of adjusting, of admitting that impact matters more than intent. You don't have to abandon who you are to be understood, but you do have to be reachable. If people feel like they can't talk to you without being corrected, explained to, or shut down, they'll stop trying. And then you'll be alone with the story that nobody gets you. So I'm curious, have you ever used "they don't understand me" to avoid looking at something about yourself? Or on the flip side, have you truly been misunderstood and blamed yourself for it? Where do you think that line is? Drop your thoughts. I read them. And if this hit close to home, you're not broken. You might just be human and learning how to be heard.